Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining this session this morning. Like we've introduced ourselves last week, hope we had a wonderful weekend. And as at yesterday night, I've seen that some of us has been able to answer the entry questionnaire, and we've been able to fill it. And then that has also given us an understanding of where we are and what we do, some of the practices that we do that we're going to talk about in this all 4 weeks. And welcome you once again. And we'll quickly run through the agenda. What do we have for today? What we have for today, first we welcome, and then I'm sharing the agenda. That's going to take us 5 minutes. And then we have the overall objective of the course, and then the methodology, the activities that we are going to use during this day, this training. What are the activities that we're going to carry out? That's why during the introductory session, we talk about the technical support, and then we ask that we go through the technical support, and then we are able to look at how to use Woodclap, how to use Padlet, how to go through Zoom breakout sessions and things like that, because those are the activities that we're going to use to interact, to ask questions on this training. Then we move on to our topic for today. What is biodiversity? That's what we are looking at, the definition and the importance of biodiversity. Why is biodiversity important to us? Then we have an activity on regulation and support service. We're going to look at what is the difference between regulation and support services. Then we have another activity on self-maintenance service of termite. What does termite do differently from earthworm? What are the benefits of earthworm and termite? We're going to do an activity on it after having an interaction. Then we'll ask for question and answer for sequence 1. So along the line, if you have a question, please feel free to use the reaction button. You can raise your hand, and then I will ask you to unmute yourself, and then you can ask your question. And if you feel you want to wait till when we have the question and answer time, please note down your question, do not forget, or you write them in the chat, and then we'll pick them. And then we have a short break, because sitting behind, whether you're using a phone or you're using a computer, it's a lot of screen attraction. So it's always good that we give ourselves some break. We have a break for 5 minutes, and then after that we come to our sequence 2. Like I explained last week, when we say sequence, it means that it is a lesson, but in KOLASP we call it sequence. So our sequence 2, we will look at the importance and argument on biodiversity. There has been some argument on biodiversity. Why are we talking about diversity? Why is this so important? A lot of argument has been on it. Then we come to the question and answer on that for 10 minutes, and we look at the summary of recap of what has been done today, and also give instruction concerning what we are supposed to do next. And I hope we'll be able to enjoy the session and be able to navigate and ask questions that we need to ask. Thank you. Hope we understand this training. Any question before we move on, please? Any question before we move on? And please do not forget, if you are not in a quiet place, if where you are it's not that quiet, you can please mute yourself, or I can mute you from here also. But also, if you're in a quiet place, that's fine. But if you're not in a quiet place, please kindly mute yourself. And when you want to speak, you can kindly unmute yourself. Thank you very much. So we go straight to what we have for today. And like I said before, we're going to be talking about what is biodiversity. What is this biodiversity that we are really talking about? Thank you for joining everyone once again. Can you please see my screen? Are we seeing my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
And you can see Module 1, Introduction to Biodiversity.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So like I said, this Module 1 is going to be talking about introduction to biodiversity. In any topic, we need to look at the introduction. We need to be able to say what it is about. There are different definitions that has been put together for biodiversity. And before we go on, we look at the overall objective for this module. What is the overall objective for this module? The overall objective of this module is that at the end of this module, we want everybody to be able to understand the different types of biodiversity. There are different types of biodiversity, you know. We have wild biodiversity, we have domestic biodiversity, we have landscape biodiversity. All this biodiversity are different, and the approach, our approaches to use them are different. So we are going to learn this during this model. Then we're also going to understand the role of hedges, refuge areas, buffer zones, and flower strips, and relationship between biodiversity and agricultural practices. If you have your microphone on mute, can you please unmute? Can you please mute yourself so that it doesn't signal background noise to everybody? Thank you for doing that. Then we move on to the third objective. We know how to assess the quality of biodiversity, the biodiversity indicators. What are the things that we look at? And then we are able to say that, oh, I have this level of biodiversity on my farm. These are things that we're going to look at in this model. Then we'll know the impact of various production systems on our biodiversity, the things that we are doing, the kind of production system that we are running currently. What is the impact on our horticultural farm? What are the things that it's going to affect? What are the negative and positive impact of this on our horticultural farms? Then we'll move on to know how to analyze practices that may lead to a risk of biodiversity loss. How do I analyze it? How do I know that what I'm doing currently is going to create biodiversity loss? So that I can mitigate it, or I can reduce those practices if I have ability to do that. Then we also know how to determine recommended practices to preserve or restore biodiversity on our farm. Some farms need to restore totally, some are already doing it, and then they need to preserve. So these are things that we're going to learn in this model, in this week 1. And like we said before, our week 1 is divided into 2. We have another section on Thursday. So we're going to be able to cover a particular level to the level that we're going to run our assignment for the week, so that we'll be able to go through our assignments that we have on week 1, and then we are able to answer. Then we'll continue on Thursday. So all this objective that I've laid out, we're not going to finish everything today. We're going to finish everything on Thursday. So what is the methodology that we're going to use in this training? Well, we have a 60-minute interactive section because we have we have some activities that we're going to do in between. Though it's the whole session is 1.5 hours. That's 1 hour, 30 minutes, 90 minutes. But we have interactive sections. Then we also have a break. We also have question and answer, but the real time we're going to use to do the PPT training is 60 minutes. Then we do brainstorming using different tools. Like I said, these tools, we have 6 activities in this entire module. We're going to use Woodclap, we're going to use the breakout session, we're going to use the plenary discussion. We're just going to discuss among ourselves. We're going to use chats also, the Zoom chat to put in some answers. And we encourage that each participant actually put in their inputs into all these activities that we're going to do. And like I said, we're going to have also class discussion. We're just going to discuss and brainstorm on these activities. These are the activities that we're going to engage ourselves in during this session. So, what is biodiversity? What is biodiversity? I would like us to go into the Zoom chat, and in the next 2 minutes, every one of us put in there, what is biodiversity to you in your own words? Do not look at anybody's definition, but in your own words, in the Zoom chat, put in there, what do you think is biodiversity? In your own word, express yourself. So what is biodiversity? We'll do that in the next 2 minutes. So I am waiting to see who is dropping. What is biodiversity in your own words? Do we all know how to put, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chido. Mr. Chido is saying that, yeah, it's crops, plant, animals, and microorganisms. Thank you. I'm waiting for everybody. Please, this is part of our activities that we need to do, because as many that have done CP training before, you know, all this information we're still going to download and we're going to look at it. So we encourage that everybody participate. There's no wrong answer. There's no right answer. It's just for us to put it, to express biodiversity in our own words. Let us be able to express it in our own words. So Mr. Boswell said the interaction of plant and animal species in a harmonious manner. Thank you. Yes, it's an interaction of plant and animals in a good way. Mr. Timothy says, I think it refers to every living thing. Yes, every living thing. And even non-living thing, the ecosystem has non-living things in them. It's the interaction of everything entirely in the ecosystem. Is the interaction of everything in the ecosystem. Mr. Joe, you're trying to write on the white sheet. So please, when you're writing, go through the to the Zoom chat. Okay. So I'm still waiting for Mr. Mikiaz. Sorry if I do not pronounce your name correctly. You can correct me. Mr. Joe, I'm waiting for you. Mr. Chinedu, yes, I am waiting for you to please put your definition there. Okay, while others are trying to type what is biodiversity, yes, we move on to our topic for today, biodiversity, definition and importance. What is, and this is sequence 1. So we, like I said, this is like lesson 1. So at the end of this particular sequence, we're going to look at, we understand the definition of the various biodiversity. Like I've mentioned, we know the services provided by the wild and domestic biodiversity. These are the 2 different ones we'll learn on this sequence. Then we understand the concept of regulation services and self-maintenance. There are some regulations concerning biodiversity. Then we understand the role of hedges, the refuge areas, buffer zone, strips, and flowering. And you know, sometimes those who are practicing organic, even those who are practicing convention, they tell you, you must put the buffer zone. What is the implication of this buffer zone? Why do we put buffer zones? And what are we supposed to do in those buffer zones? We are going to look at everything in this sequence. So what is biodiversity? If you look at my screen, hope you are seeing my screen, everyone.
Yes.
Okay, so once in a while, I'm going to ask this because, this is an online session, and sometimes network, anything can happen, and then you are not getting, people are not seeing you, but they will not say. So once in a while, I just want to know that people are also there, and I'm going to call on names also once in a while for me to know that everybody is there and we are paying our full attention to this training. So what is biodiversity? Some of us have written in the chat, yes, we are all correct, what is biodiversity. But etymologically speaking, from scientific point of view, it's two words that are put together, it is bio, and then we have a diversity. These two words are put together. What is the bio means? Bio means life. It is life, biological. So it is life. Bio means life, and diversity means variety, different things. So if you put these two words together, we can say life with different things. We can say life meaning varieties of life. We can put it that way, that it is variety of life. And we can also say that it's a diversity of living beings in nature and the way they interact with each other. How do they interact? How do they live among themselves? How do they express themselves? How do they express each other? How do they behave among each other? Is there variances among them? Is there things that are different among them? Is there a way they come together and they uniform and they interact and they help each other? These are all complexity information that is really involved in biodiversity. And in other people definition, some people say that it is variation among living organisms and the ecological structures that put them together. So all this, there are a lot of different, definitions that it's how they, but in a layman language, in a farmer language, it is bio plus diversity, which is bio, which is life, and diversity, which is biological diversity. So if you explain it this way, you have explained all the different definitions that people that you can find out there that people are putting together. And then recently someone came with a definition, and in his own definition, he proposed that diversity is all forms of life. That all forms of life, whether living or non-living, that is biodiversity. And when he came up with this definition, his name is Wilson. And when he came up with this definition, he made us to start studying biodiversity at 3 different levels. So we just don't say biodiversity, or we just don't put everything together. So we start studying biodiversity at the ecosystem level. We look at the ecosystem on the entire ecosystem. We study it on its own. Then we come to the species living in the ecosystem. We have different species living in this ecosystem. We start studying the different species. And then even in the species, we have the gene specific. So that's why we have varieties for those of us doing horticulture. We say the variety of tomato, this variety of papaya, this variety of avocado. Okay, in my region, this variety is what is that thrives better. In another zone, even in the same country, another tribe does, another variety does better. So this is the study, the gene that helps us to understand all this variety that we put into place. Then in 1992, then different people started, since a long time. Biodiversity has been in place for a long time. But in 1992, people started thinking, we need to start putting some things into place. We need to start thinking and harmonizing all this, definitions, all this understanding together. Then in 1992, there was a convention, the Rio de Janeiro Convention. It's a conference. And then in that conference, it was tailored towards biodiversity, and everybody came together. And then there was entirely, they were discussing about diversity. And out of that, they brought out a convention on biodiversity. And up to now, that convention is still in place. And then in that convention, in that conference, 50 countries decided to sign an agreement on what they think biodiversity is and what definition of biodiversity that should be used. And then the definition of biodiversity that they actually put in place is that it's a variety among living organisms from all sources, including including terrestrial, including marine, including aquatic ecosystem, including those living on the land, those living in the air, those living inside the soil, everything that this complex ecosystem, how they express themselves. And this includes even the diversity within the species and between species and the entire ecosystem. They are able to put up this definition and put everything together in a frame. And this convention, like I said, is still holding every now and then. And this convention has been able to bring about so many laws that we now use in biodiversity. So in the international law now, when you look at the international law, there's a definition of biodiversity in international law. And the definition is, it's very simple. They made it very simple, that it's a diversity among plants, animals, and fungi, and the different species. They made it so simple that you know that it encompasses everything in life. And so that's the definition of biodiversity. And that is how we study biodiversity at the different levels. Any hope we are together and we understand what we're talking about. So we move on to services provided by biodiversity. There are some services that biodiversity gives to us, though sometimes we don't account it. You see, we don't put them into writing. But these are things that when we practice good biodiversity and we practice sustainable biodiversity, these are things that it gives to us. And you know, in agricultural production system, there are basis on environmental and natural physical environment called agro-ecosystem. So in agricultural production system, there's what we call the agro-ecosystem. And this in agro-ecosystem consists of land using for agriculture, it consists of livestock, it consists of pisciculture, it consists of forestry, it consists of grazing land. All these things are what's encompasses in agro-ecosystem. And in that agro-ecosystem, that is where we find biodiversity that we are talking about. And in this biodiversity, we understand that is the foundation of many natural processes governing the functioning of the agro-ecosystem. So biodiversity itself is a foundation for life. It's what we build upon. And the services that are provided by biodiversity in the context of agriculture, they are one, regulation services. And the second one is support services. So what is the regulation service? These are benefits resulting from the regulation of the ecosystemic processes. These are benefits that we get from regulating the ecosystem, such as the regulation of the air quality, the soil fertility, the prevention of flooding and disease, and crop pollination. We know that when we want to do certification, some of these questions are being asked, some of them have been regulated, that if you want to practice conventional good agricultural practices in Global GAP, these are the things that you must do. If you want to do organic, these are the things that is acceptable. So the laws have been put in place by all this system. Then we have support service, also called self-maintenance. So in this course, sometimes you see me use self-maintenance, or I can say support service. These are services that are provided by biodiversity, and these are required for the production of all other ecosystem services, e.g. providing living space for plants and animals, enabling species diversity, preserving genetic diversity. These are the services that biodiversity gives to us under the support service, which we enjoy naturally in the ecosystem. So we move on, and then we look at this figure, this picture. Can we all see the picture, please?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Yes. So I said on it that we should identify the services provided by biodiversity. You have put in there some letters. I want to see if some of us can identify some of those things before we fully talk about it. What are these services provided? Just to name each person, we are 7 or 8. Can we name one service that is being provided by biodiversity with the picture that we are seeing, with the diagram that we are seeing? You can unmute yourself and just speak, please. Madam Chido. Okay,
Hello.
Mr. Yes, please. Hello. Can you unmute yourself and speak? Mr. Ignatius, you can speak. Mr. Ignatius, you can speak, please. Hello, Mr. Chido, sorry, Mr. Chinedu. Unmute yourself and tell us one. Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. From the diagram, I think I can see the aquatic body providing habitat for the marine.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I said the water body is providing a habitat for the fishes and other living organisms in the water.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Buckford. Mr. Ignatius, I can hear your question. We're going to talk about it. I'm just giving us this diagram. I want us to try to see ourselves. Mr. Joe, can you please unmute yourself and speak?
Hello?
Yes, please.
Yes, so I can see the trees planted by the riverside, which means that they are providing some kind of, conservation to the soil to stop soil erosion.
You are very correct. You're very right. Yes, you can see trees there. Yes, you can see. Yeah, thank you. Then if you look at the picture very well, we can see that there are flowers at some areas. Why do they put flowers at some area, flower strips? We can see the grass area very close to the water body. That's its significance, has its own reason. We can see trees at different zones, not just concentrated around the water body alone. We can see it at different zones, even close to the house itself. All these are the ecosystem that this farm is thriving in. And we can see different things that is actually operating inside this ecosystem. If we look at it deeply, we will be able to see life in this kind of ecosystem because it's rich. So what are the letters, like Mr. Ignatius was already asking? So what are these letters that is there? So we look at the letters now, one after the other. So the services provided by biodiversity on the different scales, whether cultivated plots, adjacent plots, the large plots, the landscape area, they are by the different elements that we are seeing. These are services that are provided by these different elements. So we look at E on that picture. E stands for erosion. So what are we talking about erosion? We'll see that if you look at this picture very well, where my cursor is, we'll see the different E's, the different He's. What is it trying to tell us? It's saying that edges with fallow contour lines prevents soil from eroding to the bottom of the hills. So when we have hedges, and what are planted in the hedges, some of them are flower strips, some of them are trees itself, some of them are grasses. When we do all this, we are trying to stop, like Mr. Joe said, the soil from eroding to the bottom of the hill. And we know when erosion takes place, it takes away all our topsoil. So also, this grass cover in orchard prevents soil erosion by wind or torrential rains. Then we have living harvest waste in the prevents soil erosion by wind. So even if there's an erosion from the upstream and it's coming down to the downstream, at least your good soil is not taken into the water bodies. And this edges conserves and takes them. And also for people who are using the conventional, practicing conventional agriculture, you know that when we use the synthetic chemicals, fertilizer and all the pesticide, if we are not careful, they go into our water bodies, and then it pollutes our water bodies. So, but when we have these edges, they can absorb all this pollution and this erosion that's going to take place, and then store them there without them going into our body, water bodies. The HEF stands for flood prevention. The HEF, we can see HEF here. It stands for flood prevention. What do we mean by flood prevention? This is area where living low river banks outside of the agricultural production zone, covered with low vegetation, provides room for overflowing and reduces water speed, protecting agricultural land downstream. Many people want to use all their land, everything, they want to grow on everything. No, and in doing so, you try to destroy some of this natural ecosystem. If you have a virgin land, you want to farm, you can see on that virgin land or that new land, there are water bodies concentrated at different zones. When we buy such land, or even the farm that we have now, we can go around and look at areas that there are conservation of water bodies, just a little portion. We need to conserve those areas because there are a lot of organisms thriving in that area, which is very good for our horticultural farm and which will help our horticultural farm to thrive very well. So let's continue with some of the letters that we have seen. P stands for pollination, which we all understand why we need pollinators in our environment. These are fields, borders with many flowers. We get to so many farms, we don't see flowers there. We feel that flowers we'll see only around maybe the offices, but even in a different zones that we have or sections that we have placed our farms, we need to put flowers there, because these flowers, when we put them there, this serves as attraction for pollinators. They all come there, they help pollinations around our farms, and then they increase our yield. That's their work, because when they do when they pollinate, we have more fruits in whatever we are growing, and then more fruits result to more yield, and which results to more income at the end of the day. So these are very important services that the biodiversity, when we do good biodiversity, provide for us. Then we have PC, which is pest control. We will look at the pest control. These are fields bordered with many flowers and other semi-natural infrastructures provided a habitat for crops, animals. This PC, this borders, this pest control is naturally done. When you have hedges, when you have flowers, you will see later on how all those things, when we have grass strips around our farms, we see how all those things helps to take some of those pests, because they stay on that area, and when they stay there, they are able to thrive instead of disturbing our farm. Then we see that reduced runoff. That is HAR. On that diagram, we can see HAR there. It is reduced runoff. These are strips of land without crops around fields, capture excess fertilizer and pesticide, and prevent them from flowing into the rivers or the ditches. This is areas that we need to live on our horticultural farm, which is very, very important when we are actually farming. So we also look at HES. HES is soil structure, the function of soil structure. We saying that we need to reduce plowing. Some already say they do zero tillage, very good. Some of us that is still plowing, we need to reduce our applying the press to actually help in the presence of harvest waste on the ground and other measures which avoid unnecessary disturbance of the soil. You see, when we disturb the soil too much, it's not good for the ecosystem itself because there are living organisms in the soil. Then we have W, which is the water retention, land with vegetation along rivers and crops act as sponges which hold water during flood and releases it gradually over time. So when we have water retention areas, you see, they hold the water. That's also when we plant trees around these water retention areas. The trees have roots that travel so deep, and then during season where we do not have rain, the roots of these trees travels deep down and takes the water up to the top level, to the surface level, which is also available for other plants that we have on the farm. And then we have WB, which is the windbreak, and this aspect of the landscape that the hedges and the trees and the orchards, they reduce wind speed. It is very important that we have windbreaks around our farm because the climatic zone, there's lots of destruction already happening in there's climate change anyway. So there's so many things that we're going to beginning to see, more winds, storms, and all those things. If we don't guide our investment very well, it might affect our yield, might affect even so many things that might come to happen on our farm. So we need to have windbreaks on our farm. So having said that, we move to the next service. You know, we talked about before that we have regulatory service and we have self-support services. So we're going to look at the regulatory services. Any question? Is there any question so far? Or we want to wait till when we have question and answer time? Mr. Timothy, hope you are there. Hello, Mr. Timothy.
Yes.
Any question? Yes. Yeah, any question so far?
No.
Okay.
No question.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Ignatius, your hands are raised. Can you please unmute yourself?
My question is, if you are doing organic farming where you are not using pesticides and other synthetic chemicals, yes, do you still have to go by all these practices?
Yeah. Yes, sir. You still have to, because we're talking about
earlier.
Yes, please. Because they increase biodiversity. They increase some of these organisms, natural organisms, microorganisms that will come into your farm and which are beneficial to our farms. Because we talked about before, we said when you put these hedges there, so we want snake, we want rodents, we want the birds to be in our farms to sing. These are natural ecosystems that we want them to be available even in our organic farms. And when we create these areas, they come there, they thrive there, they populate there, because we are mimicking the area they will be, whether in the forest or in the wild. So we are trying to mimic that even on our farm, because all these elements, they actually have what they do for us in our system. So as organic farms also, even though we are not using any synthetic products, we still need to create all these areas for them to thrive very well. You still have your hands raised, Mr. Ignatius. Any other question?
Yes. My second question. My second question is, yes, we are creating these areas as a threshold for living organisms that are beneficial to our farms. Is that right?
Yes, please.
Good. But is it not the same area where pests can also hide and then come and harm our farms, our crops?
Okay, good question. So yes and no, because it depends on what we are producing. And for example, we have some flowers that helps that control certain things, even though they are flowers, but they control certain things. So the knowledge is, what am I producing? And so what are the measures, these natural measures that I can put in place? What are the types of flowers that I need to plant? What are the types of trees that I need to put in my edges, that will not bring pests into my farm, or that will not harbor pests in my farm? So this is, these are information that we need to dive into, and then we'll find out that there are some natural trees and other flowers or grasses that we can plant, that they are very, very good in repelling even pests, in doing a lot of natural work for us that will not harbor pests around our farm. So the knowledge is to balance, what am I doing? Because it's not one method fit all. So we need to know what you are producing and which trees is compatible, yes, for your own farm, and which one I cannot plant because it's going to harbor pests if I have a lot of them around my borders. So these are things that we need to work on. So we go on to the regulatory services. These are services and benefits obtained through regulations of the ecosystem. So this ecosystem, there is a lot of regulations already, that this is what you can do if you want to get into this certification and all these things. So what are these benefits? We have the micro and the macro climate regulations already. The ecosystem influence climate at both the local and the global level. So what we do in our ecosystem, in our small farm, let me call it, whether it's 10,000 hectares, it's still small compared to the entire country where you are. It's changes the soil, that it can influence the change in temperature and the amount of rainfall in that environment. The practices that we put in place can actually have an effect on the temperature and the rain pattern that we find in that place. So it's important as farm owners, as business owner working in an establishment, that we put in place good measures, that it doesn't affect the temperature and the rain pattern of the entire community that we live in, because this is really happening. It's just because in this part of the world, we don't measure a lot of things, but in the developed country, all these things are being measured, and they can see the pattern of these practices already, how it affects the small community where they are living. And then in the larger environment, which is the entire world, this is why we're having climate change. That's why we said there's climate change, because of these practices that we are putting in place. So there's already regulations controlling this, so that we do not have such effects going on. Then we have the regulation of hair. The hair quality is being regulated now. So what are these services or benefits obtained when we regulate the hair quality? These are trees and other plants. They play important part in regulating the hair quality. When you plant trees, for example, when you go to a farm, when you are entering the farm and the area you have certain trees, the air that you breathe in that area is totally different. you feel clean here, that you're breathing something different into your system, and than when you just have open space when you are entering a particular farm area. So this regulation of air quality is very important for our immediate environment, even for our workers, and also for the entire country where we live in, and even for the global system. Then we have erosion control and ongoing soil fertility. The kind of vegetation that we put in place, the kind of system that we practice has effect on this. So soil erosion is a key factor in soil deterioration process, and it's also it's a factor in the declining of our soil fertility and desertification and all the rest. So it's very important that now they started regulating our soil fertility, that even on our farm we look at what are the practices that we are putting in place, so that this micro and macro elements, they can thrive, they can multiply in our ecosystem. Then we have water regulation. Okay, we have the reoccurrence and extent of runoff and flooding and the recharging of this aquatic environment happening in our environment. How do we ensure that this aquatic life are not destroyed by some of the things that we do? Then we have water purification and waste management. The ecosystem itself can provide impurity into the water system, and then the ecosystem, when we practice good biodiversity, it can actually purify this water bodies that has been contaminated. We're going to see some of these practices that can actually do water purification as well. Then we talked about pollination. This we've talked about before, that they are very essential for thriving and for increase in production in our different farms. And we need to understand that the smallest change in one ecosystem can affect the distribution, the abundance of pollinators in that ecosystem. One single small thing that we do can increase the pollinator or can decrease the pollinators in our ecosystem. So that's why some of the farms do not have, we are talking about bees. People are acclimating that bees are nowhere to be found like before because of some of the practices that we've been engaged in. So we need to look at all these practices very well so that we have all these pollinators very good in places. So we look at the self-maintenance services. When we're talking about self-maintenance services, we want to look at the wild biodiversity, what it does for us. The wild biodiversity is essential to maintaining conditions variable to life on health. That is why we are saying that in our ecosystem, we should create the small patches, hedges, flower strips, grass strips, because this is where the wild organisms, they thrive there, because they are found in the wild naturally. But when we create this patches in our farm, they come there, they thrive there. They contribute to the maintenance of local and global ecological balances. Then they have stabilized the atmospheric oxygen production at your local level and at the global climate level. And there's a formation and stability of soil. They help in soil stability and formation. Then the circle of elements, different elements, because they release different things. All these microorganisms and macroorganisms that we're talking about, they release different elements, and some of them release beneficial elements into our farm, and which is very important. Then the habitats available to species, because different species now can thrive in our farms, even though we are having, for example, avocado alone on our farm. But when we create these different patches also, it changes our our ecosystem, because then we are not doing monoculture anymore, because we can have different trees at different areas, even though we have just papaya and so we have avocado planted just on our farm. But these areas that we planted trees and grasses and flowers and everything changes the entire look of the farm and change it from monoculture practice to a kind of mixed farming practice. So we are going to do an exercise now. We're going to do an exercise now with the wood clap. We're going to go into wood clap, and we're going to use this exercise to differentiate between, you're going to discuss, I'm going to group us now into twos. We're quickly going to discuss what's the difference between regulation service and support services. So I'm going to copy this link into our chat, and once you click on that link, it will take you automatically to wood clap. So please permit me to do that. So I have dropped the link on our chats, and please just click on it. It should take you directly to the question. It should take you directly to the question, and then you can quickly work on it. I hope we are all doing it, this exercise. So we have on this, I want to see. So Mr. Timothy and Mr. Chinedu, I'm going to split. Are you using one device? Because I know you're from the same establishment. Are you using one device, please?
No.
Okay, you're using.
No, we are using separate devices, but I'm with Nobu here, so.
Okay, you are with Nobu.
Yes.
Okay, so you and Nobu should do the exercise together.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, okay. So just type in your answers on that. From what we have discussed, what can you say is the difference between regulation services and support services? Just write a simple line. I have not seen anyone, any answer. Have we all opened Wood Clap by that link? You're using mobile phone. Yes, you can. Try it. I've never used mobile phone, but try it. Try using it. Let's see if it will go. Madam Chido, So are you trying it?
Yes, I've been trying it, but failing.
Mr. Bossa, have you tried it also on your mobile phone?
I can only type in a message. Can I type my message there? Sure. Can I send a message?
Yeah, you can use your phone.
Let me try it.
Click on that link. Click on that link, copy that link, and take it to your browser, your Google browser. It will open it up for you. Just copy that link and put it on your Google or Chrome, whichever one you are using on your phone, depending on the kind of phone you are using. Mr. Ignatius, we actually want you to use Woodclap. Yes, I've seen your answer, but we want you to use Woodclap because also as leaders in your establishment, you also want to get used to this to these tools also, because we expect that also you train others with this knowledge. So you also want to engage them during facilitation. So we want you to use this tool. So,
Benedict,
Mr. Chinedu,
when
yes,
I
please.
clicked on the link,
Yes,
it doesn't
please.
send me to Woodclap. It sends me to where I sent the message. So if you can send the link again.
Okay.
Benedict, can you send the link again?
Yes, I have sent it again on the group chats.
Can you send on the email again the link to the Zoom training? Maybe I'll try now on my laptop because electricity is come.
Okay. Ayo, can you help me send the email with the Zoom link?
It didn't work. I copied it. It didn't work.
It didn't work for you. Okay, good.
Yeah, it didn't work for me.
I'm
also using a phone.
You're also using a phone. Okay. But Mr. Chinedu, you are not using a phone. Are you using a phone?
No, I'm not using a phone.
So have you done it?
I'm typing it. I'm typing it. You will get it soon.
Okay. We're waiting for your answer.
Benedict, my other meeting time is off. It starts at 8. Can I join?
Yes, you said. Yes, you said that, but that means also that you're going to listen to
I'm enjoying this, but yeah, so
to the recording.
I'll dwell on the recording afterwards. Yes.
Yes, please. And then you'll be able to also do your assignment because with the recording, that will help you to understand what you're supposed to do. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'll personally call you when I have any difficulty.
Okay, no problem. And then you can wait like 5 minutes to join them also because they will still do exactly what we did at the beginning by running through the objective agenda. You understand? So probably you still wait till like 5 minutes after it before you join them. Okay. Okay, so while Mr. Chinedu is still trying to do that, we might have to move on because of our time and so that we can we are able to complete this exercise that where we are supposed to reach. Okay.
I've done that. Please check the chat box.
The chat box.
Yeah, I have.
You mean the chat box for the wood clap?
Yeah, on Zoom. No, yeah, on Zoom.
Yeah, on Zoom. Okay. So let's go on, because now this is going to be useful in one of our other assignments that we are going to do. So let's move on so that we don't miss it at all. So self-maintenance, can we see my screen, please?
Yes, I can see.
Okay, self-maintenance services. So we're going to discuss some of this self-maintenance services and some of the elements that we need in this self-maintenance service. The following elements provide different self-maintenance service. We want to look at the edges, what service today provide for us. One of the things they do is that in practicing of plant windbreak, they help in windbreak when there's wind in our farm, or wind coming so strong. When we have edges, trees planted at the edges, they help in the windbreak in our farm. And you know that this is actually not something that is new. In most old farms, you find edges all over there, and this has its significance there. Then also it helps in the production of atmospheric oxygen. Like I was saying, when you have trees in your environment, the oxygen level, the ratio between carbon dioxide and oxygen, it's different. In fact, you yourself, the smell of a natural habitat, the kind of oxygen that you breathe in, is totally different when you have hedges, when you have trees planted in your ecosystem. Then also soil formation and soil retention. They help in soil formation, they help in soil retention because they have long roots. The roots can travel, can penetrate into the soil by breaking up the hard pans all around our farm. These trees, these edges can travel so long into a long distance, and then can help in soil formation. Can we please mute our phone? Hello. Can we mute our phones, please? I always like people to mute by themselves and not just mute them. Okay. So they also help in biogeochemical cycles, the biological chemical cycles that happen in our farm. This edges, they help there. Then they help in water cycle and habitat and food. They help in the water cycle. You know, there's water cycle retention, water retention. They help in water retention ability in our farm because the roots can travel down a long distance, and then when there's shortage of water in our farm, then they can tap into the water bodies in the lower part and bring them to the upper surface. Then they serve as habitat for natural elements, and then food, because the natural microorganisms and macroorganisms, they live there, and then they find food to eat. Instead of coming to our farm to eat, they find food there to eat. Then they are notable for crop auxiliaries, for diversification. They are notable for this. So what are the benefits of earthworms? We all know what earthworms does in our farm. This are very, very good elements that we need to have even to multiply in our farm. They modify the soil structures. When they burrow the soil, they try to, mix the soil. They also release wastes. We say worm cast. If you wake up in the morning and you have a lot of earthworms in your farm, you can actually collect the worm cast. It's fertilizer on its own. It's just like chicken fertilizer, chicken manure. You can collect this worm cast and actually put them in water and use them to fertilize your crops, because they are waste from the earthworm. So they are just like our cattle dung, cow dung, and the rest also. Then they act on the dynamics of organic materials, releasing nutrients essential for plant growth. They heat this plant materials, they break them down, and then when they eat them and they break them down, then like I said, then they release the nutrients, the waste back for us. Then they have an indirect effect on the flow of organic materials and of water also, because when you have earthworms brewing your soil, then they create hair space, hair spaces in your soil. Then water can travel very well into the lower soil level, and then you do not have a lot of runoff happening on your farm. So earthworms are very, very good, and in fact, if you have them, you can increase them and multiply them in your farm for them to help in soil formation and soil fertility. Then we look at another very good element that is very good, even though it has its own also disadvantage, which are termites. Termite helps in the recycling of wood when we have trees that probably they are falling down, and we don't need to cut them because the termites will come. Then those are food for termites. They help in breaking it down, they eat it, they digest, they release their waste also there. So we can see this diagram and it explains the activities of termite. It helps in microbial activities also. It helps in improving water infiltration rate and the rest. Okay. So we're going to, because we started a little bit late, 5 minutes. Can we take a 5 minutes break? So that those who want to stretch their legs, those who want to drink water can do that. So can we take a 5 minutes break, please? So we go on 5 minutes break, and when we come back, we'll round up today's class. Well, please do not turn off your device. So I welcome everybody back. Are we all back? Are we there?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we move on to domesticated biodiversity. I actually wanted us to do an exercise before, but I've skipped it. I wanted us to do the difference between a termite and an earthworm. But I looked at the time, and then because we started late and I know that we are all busy people, we don't want to run to take some of your time. We really need to finish at the dot of time. That's why it's also good that we all come on time and we start classes on time. So domesticated biodiversity. Like we said, there are wild biodiversity and there's domesticated biodiversity. What are domesticated biodiversity? These are biodiversity, includes all domesticated species that has been domesticated to a particular environment or even to the entire world. And these are varieties and races used by human. We actually human beings started domesticating this wild species, and they started extracting genes and started picking characteristics that are important to them, or that's that are important to them. They started bringing them closer, like I like the color of this, I like the shape of this, I like this one is resistant to this disease. So we started doing all this domestication. We are the humans are the ones that started it. And natural selection is a process which promotes the adaptation of species by enabling the individual best suited to the environment. So when you talk of the wild biodiversity, things are just happening naturally in there. They are reproducing on its own. They are not following any particular shape or order in the wild domestication. But in domesticated biodiversity, everything is going to follow certain order. And in domesticated biodiversity, we have 3 levels of diversity inside domesticated biodiversity. We have the interspecific, which is species diversity. We have the intraspecific, which is genetic, which is particular to each gene. And then we have the intravarietal diversity. And this is defined as genetic diversity within the same variety. So we have a variety, but there's diversity even inside that variety itself. So for example, there's a variety of avocado, and like the avocado, there's still gene diversity. There's still variety inside that has type of avocado. And we know that diversity enables farmers to minimize the risk related to monocultures by cultivating different species. So it's also good to cultivate these different species on our farms, on our establishment, and not just one fit all system. It's good to have different species on our farm, and this will really help us. So we move on to landscape biodiversity. Like I said before, there are different types of biodiversity. So we're just explaining today the different types of biodiversity. Landscape biodiversity. The word landscape usually designates an area that the eyes can see all at once. When you say, this is the landscape area of the farm, that is the entire area that you can see at once. And that is what it means by landscape. And then in landscaping, you also have elements of different that we have talked about, the hedges, the grass strips and others in this landscape. And then the elements of landscape, like I said, they've been divided into 4. We have the production zone, the plots, the fallow land, the meadows, and then we have the wild zones or the natural zone, which are the forests, the water areas, the dams. These are the natural zones in the landscape. Then we have the intermediate zones like the edges, the grass strips, the flower strips. Then we have the urban zones, which are the roads, the the houses, your factory or your warehouse or your pack house. These are the urban zones in your landscape. So it's good to be able to identify all these landscape areas in your establishment. Then we move on to the grass strips. This is the picture of a grass strips. What does a grass strips, what does it do? Part of what grass strips do is that it helps in water purification. So instead of like this picture that we are seeing, even though you're practicing something like I'm practicing organic, but we don't want those even pesticides that are organic to go into the water bodies because they may have effect on the fish itself, even though it's natural, but there are different types of aquatic organisms also inside the water bodies. So it's not just only fish. So you don't know what effect that particular organic pesticide is going to have on them. So we don't want runoff of those pesticides even into the water bodies as organic farmer. That's why we say plant strips, our grass strips along your water body. So it absorbs those excess pesticide or fertilizer. And then also it helps in controlling erosion. So if there's a pour of water runoff from your upstream, then to the downstream, the grass strips helps you to absorb all this erosion, and then you can collect them and take them back because it is nutrient that is actually washing away. You can take them back to the surface of your farm. Now it serves as a forage and construction material resources, which is very important because then we have environments where other elements can actually thrive. It's fixed part of the silks, fertilizer, and phyto product also. These are some of the importance of planting grass strips before the water bodies around our farm. Sorry. We move on to hedges. We can see from this beautiful diagram that there are a lot of different layers of hedges that is being planted around the horticultural farm. And we have flowers there, we have the trees there. And then when we say plant hedges, these trees can also be of economic importance to you. You can derive, it can be used for other things, it can be used for staking, it can be used also for a place where people sit naturally or a picnic area. So you can design the farm in such a way that it's also places that is economical and not just that the trees are just say sitting down there. Then also combining plants attract and provide food for the pests, predators. So when we have hedges there, before our real plants, they serve as places where these pests can actually thrive and where they can eat food, because it's food that they actually want. They want to eat. So what are the things that I can plant that are going to be beneficial to the kind of pest that is common to my avocado, for example, or my papaya, for example? I plant them around and the pests, they thrive there, they eat there, they survive there, and they do not disturb my papaya or my avocado. Then they also serve as banks for biological control agents. The flower strips provide a source of food for natural enemies also. So the natural enemies feed on the flower strips, and also it's a place for pollinators, also like we have mentioned. So any questions so far, please? Question before we move on. Questions, any question before we move on? Mr. Timothy. Question? Mr. Daniel.
No question from my end.
Madam Benedict, for now, I have no question.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. We move on to sequence 2, In sequence 2, what do we want to look at today? We want to look at the end of the sequence, we want to know how to assess the quality of biodiversity. I want to talk about the biodiversity indicators. We want to know the impact of various production systems, the kind of production system that we are practicing, what is the impact on biodiversity. We want to analyze practices that may lead to a risk of biodiversity loss, and then want to know how to determine recommended practices to preserve or restore biodiversity, and we want to understand the importance of biodiversity for sustainable agricultural production. Like I said, we are not going to finish this course today, and we're going to continue on Thursday. So there's been some arguments in favor of biodiversity, and which is helping people to now embrace biodiversity. The progress of industrialization in the 19th century, the demographic growth, the mass consumption, all of this has had and continue to have impact on biodiversity around the world. And this has generated arguments why a lot of talk has been around biodiversity. It has been estimated that around the world, 25% of known mammals, 11% of birds, and 17% of plants are threatened with extinction right now. And that means that very soon, if we go on at the rate at which we're going, some species will not be available anymore at the end of this decade. So there are several arguments that has developed since the 1992 Rio conference that I said in favor of biological biodiversity, and that all these arguments is just to buttress the points that we need to increase the biodiversity on our farm. We need to conserve biodiversity on our farm. And because of this, so many countries, so many nations has put up a lot of laws concerning biodiversity in their different countries, even in the world. There are a lot of laws that are coming up now. And this all we know now that is biodiversity is very important and is a basis for life, because it provides protection, it gives us food, and it provides support to all living beings. And when we say all living beings, it includes the micro, the macro elements and animals. So these are the reason why there's a lot of arguments now and in favor of biodiversity, because we know that our life depends on biodiversity, and the air we breathe in, the food that we eat, our shelter, everything, the increase that we want to see in our farm, it all depends on biodiversity and how we handle them. The importance of biodiversity. What are the importance of biodiversity? We mentioned a lot of this while I was talking. Biodiversity contributes to the well-being of human beings. It helps us. Then when we breathe fresh oxygen, good oxygen, yeah, it helps us a lot. It protects human health. You know, when the environment is clean, when the atmosphere is clean, it helps our health. It promotes technical innovation, because so many innovations are springing up even with biodiversity. It provides food for human beings and even for the animals. There's food for them. It's used as natural resources more efficiently. Biodiversity uses natural resources more efficiently. They help us not to waste resources, because this micro and macro organisms, they thrive there. The biodiversity protects against erosion. We've talked about this. We cannot underestimate when we have hedges on our farm, how it helps in controlling erosion. Then it ensures the future of forests. So even though we are clearing our lands for agricultural processes, but we still need this forest, because there are elements of nature that helps in climate change. So biodiversity is a form of insurance also for us, because when we have this, it insures our farm against pests, against diseases, against so many other elements that can happen, wind break and wind erosion and things like that. Then biodiversity has a numerous financial value, where we have seen countries or people that have different biodiversity areas on their farm, and they've put that as a tourist environment where people can visit and they pay something to sit down to relax, and then they have fun on their farm. So what are the biodiversity preservation and restoration that we have. We can, from all arguments that have been in place, we know that there are 3 points of views now that we have that that biodiversity is ethically, physiological, and economically visible. This standpoint of view is very important in the sense that ethically, why is biodiversity important? Because it's preserved and restored preserving and restoring biodiversity is a moral duty, something that we should do. We shouldn't kill something because we want something. We shouldn't destroy something because we want something else. So we should be able to manage the situation very well, whereby we do not destroy the immediate environment because we need to preserve them for the future generation to come. Then physiologically, biodiversity is an essential resource, most important resource because it is the basis of our existence. If we take forests away, if we take natural environment away, then we are going to feel it as human beings. We are going to have issues with our health and so many other things. Then economically, as I am saying, there are so many people that now they use part of their farm that has this natural environment as tourist environment, where people can sit, can have picnic, can, we have people that would say they have dams that you can point and kill, even in that small farm. And so they generate income apart from what they are growing into their farm. There is a farm in Abuja. I'm sure some of our participants are in Abuja, Imat's farm or something like that. It's a farm, but it's an ecotourism farm where people play golf, different things. So we can create this environment also in our farm, and we can encourage people and we can make money out of it and not just selling one commodity. Then we look at the ecosystem services. Ecosystem services are the benefit people obtain from the ecosystem. What are the benefits that we obtain from the ecosystem? We provision for service. Provisioning services. What are the provisioning services? These are the products from the ecosystem, like our food, our water, our wood, our fiber. These are things that we enjoy from the ecosystem. And there are regulating services that we also enjoy from the ecosystem. These are the benefits resulting from the regulation of the ecosystem. When we regulate the climate, the water purification that we have talked about. Then we have the cultural services that we enjoy from the ecosystem. These are the non-material benefits that people receive from the ecosystem, like education, spiritual, recreation. These are benefits that it's natural. It's non-material. We can't really quantify it, but it's there, we benefit. Then there are supporting services that we enjoy from the ecosystem. These are services required to produce all of the other ecosystem services that we have in the environment. So, any question on this note? Any question? Any question? And then we have the final slide. If there are no questions, I want us to discuss, and the discussion is, in your current farm, your own farm, what do you think are the activities that increases biodiversity losses? What are the activities that you think that you are practicing now? Everybody will mention one thing, and then that one thing you try to discuss in 1 minute. What are the activities that we do that, from all that we have said today, that you think that is contributing to the loss of biodiversity on your farm? So we start from Mr. Timothy. Can you please unmute yourself?
Yeah, morning.
Morning, Mr. Timothy.
Can you, yeah. Yeah, yes, I think one of the major contribution for loss of that is contributing to the reduction or loss of biodiversity is and deforestation, and majorly because most of our the crops we do here, we sterilize them and we use firewood for sterilization. So we're trying to get the
firewood.
The output for the firewood. So in other words, in the ecosystem, we are reducing the population of the forest and trees, whereby we are reducing and causing we are reducing or we are depreciating the so the major thing is just deforestation. That is one of the major practices that we that is bringing that is reducing here.
Okay, thank you. So when we talk of deforestation, so it means that also the rate at which you are cutting the trees should be ×2. You shouldn't be planting. You should be planting back. Can you?
Welcome. Do you want to?
Benedict, the audio connection has been lost.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. You see, this is some of the challenges with with using online. Sorry about that. So I'm saying that, Mr. Daniel, is there any practice that increases biodiversity losses on your farm?
Yeah, I would say the farm where I'm based, we are doing the production of fresh vegetables. So one of our activities is pest control. So there are products that we apply that have some impact on the biodiversity, because sometimes you are not able to achieve what is expected. Let's say, for example, for the bees, you are supposed to spray some of the products before the bees start foraging, but you will find sometimes it gets quite hot quite early. So already some of the bees are already out and other biodiversity. So there's a bit of impact on the biodiversity due to the crop protection applications. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's means that we also need to look at some of those products that we use and look for those ones that we will be mild on pollinators. And I'm sure that they are out there. And even if you're not practicing organic, it's good to use biocontrols or bio-natural controls that are less harmful to these pollinators and which will still help them to stay in that habitat even when you spray early in the morning. Your experience also is the same thing we have in Ghana. Early in the morning, it's already at 7 a.m. The sun is out, and so if you're using certain elements, yes, it's going to affect. So, but one thing that is good is that you are able to look at some natural pesticides that you can use that will have less impact on them. Mr. Chinedu says that soil tillage. Yes, soil tillage is another practice that reduces biodiversity on our farms. The way we till the soil, what kind of implements do we use in tilling the soil? Now some advocates are saying no tillage, zero tillage, reduced tillage, but it's all boiled down to the type of soil that we have. It boils down to the type of crops that we are growing. It's also boiled down to our financial capability. So our overhead, how we want to manage the overhead in our different establishments. All this is what determines what we do. But we can actually reduce how we till our soil by planting cover crops. It helps in soil tillage naturally, because when you plant cover crops in an area and you come back to use that area, it has already tilled, the roots helps tillage naturally, some of them. So we need to look at the type of cover crops that we can use also that can help in natural soil tillage. So with this, on this note, we come to the end of today's session, and then we just going to talk briefly about what we need to do from today till Thursday. I'm going to call on my colleague Hayo to please share with us in 5 minutes, and then we close the session what we need to do. Sorry that we have extended the time by 10 minutes at my time. Please, from Thursday, we're going to start 7 on the dot. Yes, please. Ayo, over to you. Can you unmute yourself? We can't hear you. We cannot hear you, please. We can't hear you. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please, we can hear you.
All right, thank you very much. I was appreciating you for the wonderful presentation, and again, wish to apologize for the inconveniences and the time we've taken so far. I'm going to take us through what we need to do for as an assignment, so to say. So I'm going to share my screen now. I'm going to share my screen now. Can you also see me now? Can you see the screen I'm sharing?
Yes, I can see you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so if you go to the e-learning platform, if you go to the e-learning platform and you click on this biodiversity module 1 exercise, okay, it takes you to this particular page. My sincere apologies. Let me just take away my camera so that it can be faster. Okay.
Probably you should just continue and explain. Okay, good. We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, just download this exercise. So once you download this exercise, everything that Olawumi has taken you on, you are going to use the application to answer these questions. They are quite simple questions. It's just an application of what Olawumi has taken you. Can you see I've already downloaded the question now? Okay, I won't be able to access it because of my position as the trainer. But once you click on it, you'll be able to download the exercise and you'll be able to attempt it. The exercise is list an inventory of plant biodiversity of ecosystem on your farm. They are what Olawumi earlier mentioned to us. Then exercise 2 is list five each of the domesticated and wild species on your farm in a tabular form. Inside the exercise, you are going to see a table. So one column is for domesticated species, and the other one is for wild species. So just list them, and then you come down here. Once you come down here, you will see submit button, add submission. Unlike mine now, you are seeing view or submission. On your home page, you are going to see add submission. So once you click on add submission, you are good to go. So just click on it, download it, and you are able to fill in once you answer the questions, just click on add submission and you'll be able to do so. It will not take you more than maximally 30 minutes and you are good to go. All right, thank you very much. Over to Olawumi. So I will share my screen now. So
thank you.
Share my
Thank you. Thank you, Ayo. And thank you very much, everyone, for coming to today's session. Like Ayo has shared our homework, and it's specific to our establishment. So it's not something you'll find in a book or you have to read anything. It is what is available on your farm that we want you to write and we want you to answer. So that's helps us to take the next session very well, and then we are able to discuss this assignment also in the next session very well. Thank you, and see you on Thursday. And please, as many that have not gone through their entry-level questionnaire, kindly go through the entry-level questionnaire, because that helps us to prepare very well. If all of us have done that, we'll have seen another trend in the training. But we encourage that we all do that before Thursday. Okay, Mr. Joe, you have a question, please.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How do I get access to download assignment again? Do I go to the website or?
Okay, so when you go to the e-learning platform on ColeACP, where you've registered, have you registered as a participant already with the mails that, yes, if you registered, then you have access to that page. Then you go to week 1. On the page, you see introduction, you see ColeACP, you see introduction, then you see week 1. When you click on week 1, you see all the activities inside week 1, like the PowerPoints that I was sharing with you. You see it there. You will see the reading for the week, the manual that you're supposed to read for the week. Then you see this assignment there. You see assignment 1. So when you click on it, it takes you to a page, and then in that page you can download this assignment. When you download this assignment, you will answer. It's a Word document. We have made it easy, so it's a Word document. Then you can answer it directly on that Word document, and then you save it on your devices, and then you upload it back into the system. You will see the direction. It will tell you upload. Then you just click on it and then you upload it. The normal way we upload files or any other document that we share. So we upload it and then we will view it and mark it at the back end. So that is where the assignment sits. So if anyone that has not actually gone into the e-learning platform would not be able to do this. So you have to first of all register on the e-learning platform before you can access the course. Thank you. Any other question? Have I been able to answer your question, Mr. Joe?
Yes, you have.
Thank you. And that's the same way. So like your week 1 is already open today. So by next week, Monday, week 2 will be open. Then you'll be able to read the week 2 and every other assignment. So the same process you see in week 1 is the same process you see in week 2, week 3, week 4. So we just follow the same process. But different assignments and different documents to download.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir. Any other question as we round up today's meeting? So if there's no other information, I'd like to say a big thank you and for your time for staying this late. Thank you from Thursday, because it's the first time we are meeting after the introduction. We stay strictly to the time, and then now I'm sure that everybody will go and register, and then everybody will do the entry-level questionnaire, and then people will understand. And if you have any challenge at any point in time, please feel free to chat on WhatsApp. Feel free if you want to send it privately or you want to send it to the group, we will answer you. Don't be shy from asking questions. Ask the question. We are here to help you to navigate through the entire e-learning platform. I'll see you on Thursday, and hopefully we'll meet by then, by God's grace. Bye for now. Bye, everybody.